There are days when you know exactly what you should be doing, and yet, you don't start. You're not distracted, you're not confused, and still, you don't move.
Then a few hours later, that same comfort turns into frustration because nothing got done and now everything feels heavier.
It's like there are two versions of you, one that wants to act, and one that quietly holds you back.
What if that feeling isn't laziness at all, but something your brain is doing before you even begin? And once you see it, you won't look at motivation the same way again.
Because when you look closely, most people don't actually lack intention. They think about their work, they feel the pressure, they even want to start.
And yet, action doesn't follow, which tells us something important. This is not a problem of desire. It's a problem in the transition between intention and action.
It's almost like everything is fine until the exact moment you try to begin, and then something just stops.
And that something is hard to notice because it doesn't feel like a clear decision. It feels like resistance, like there's an invisible wall between you and the starting point.
So maybe the real question is not why someone is lazy, but why starting feels heavier for some people than it does for others.
Because before you begin anything, like your brain is already estimating how much effort it will take, and that estimate changes everything. Because your brain doesn't measure effort accurately, it predicts it.
You can think of it like an internal effort meter, where some tasks feel light and easy, while others feel heavier even before you touch them.
Laziness is not always a lack of effort. Sometimes it's just high starting resistance.
That is why starting often feels like pushing something heavy, where the first few moments require the most effort.
But once it begins to move, it often becomes smoother because the resistance you felt at the beginning starts to fade.
But then, why does that resistance feel different for different people?
Part of that comes from biology, because not everyone experiences motivation the same way. Some people don't feel motivation as strongly as others, literally.
Your brain uses dopamine as a signal for motivation, and for some people, that signal is naturally weaker or slower, not because they don't care, but because their brain responds differently.
Yes, because some genetic variations affect sensitivity of dopamine receptors, which changes how strongly your brain experiences motivation signals.
Which means the same task can feel easy for one person and unusually heavy for another.
But there's another layer to this. Your brain wasn't designed for modern work. It was designed for survival.
For most of human history, energy was limited, so your brain evolved to avoid unnecessary effort and conserve energy whenever possible.
Which means doing nothing isn't always a flaw. Sometimes it's your brain trying to protect you.
Your brain is optimized to save energy, not to chase long-term goals.
In today's world, when you keep choosing easy, low-effort actions, your brain starts expecting that level of effort and slowly pulls you into a loop that keeps repeating itself.
And over time, that becomes your default setting. That's why effortless things feel easy for hours, but meaningful work feels draining right away.
It's your brain comparing effort levels, and it almost always chooses the easier path.
But then something interesting happens when a deadline gets close, because suddenly everything feels more urgent.
And that urgency increases the perceived reward, which finally makes the effort feel worth it and allows action to happen quickly.
So it is not that the ability was not there before, it is that the signal was not strong enough yet.
And once that signal crosses a certain point, everything suddenly feels easier to act on.
That is why once you finally start, things can move much faster than expected.
Because after that initial resistance, momentum takes over and carries you forward.
Which also explains why pushing harder isn't always the answer. Taking smaller steps feels easier to begin because they lower the resistance your brain feels.
And once that first step happens, it often leads naturally to the next one. Because action tends to build on itself, creating a chain reaction that makes continuing easier.
And sometimes it is not even just about you, but the environment around you.
Because your surroundings can either increase resistance or reduce it, depending on how they shape your behavior.
So it doesn't mean if someone is lazy, they are stuck like that forever. Over time, you change your environment and can train your brain to look at tasks in smaller first steps, which makes doing them easier.
So, what we call laziness may not be a lack of effort, but a difference in how effort feels before you begin, may be due to your genetics or just your environment.
And once you understand that, you can start working with your brain instead of feeling like it is working against you.
There's also another situation where people feel stuck, not because of resistance, but because of low energy. And that's a completely different story. Maybe we'll talk about that next time.
If this video made you see your own behavior a little differently, take a second to like the video. And if you want more explanations like this, subscribe so you don't miss what comes next.
Till next time, keep in mind that sometimes the hardest part is not doing the work.
It is how your brain makes that work feel before you even get a chance to begin.